What's up? It's Chris, and I just have a question for you today. Okay, have you ever found yourself giving to somebody because they gave to you first, and then don't you find yourself like wanting to give more? So, what I mean is, like, say maybe at some point someone helped you move, for example. Okay, and then maybe they need a favor, and you're like, oh, of course, I'll help you out. Okay, well that's called like reciprocity. I'm reading this great book right now by Robert Cialdini, and it's here's the book right here, and it's awesome. It's called Influence. It's actually a book that a lot of the marketers use and reference because it's got such great information in it. And I'm going to show you today, how you can use reciprocity ethically in your business. And I'm going to give you an example of that. I'll give you a story. In the book he talks about, you remember going back at the airport, being in the airport back in the 1990s before you had to go through TSA, when we can actually all go walk in the airport. But back then you'd walk in and the hairy Christians would just bombard you. They'd come in and they're always asking for money. Well, he gives the example in the book, and he talked about how they learned that if they gave you a gift first, their conversions went way up. They got a lot more money. So what they do is they put a little flower on your lapel, and then suddenly you felt more inclined to give them money. Well, I'm just going to tell you about a story that I have that demonstrates this so perfectly in business. And it's something that I knew of back before I even knew what reciprocity really was. But, I grew up working in the concrete business. And the concrete business, it was something my grandfather owned, a concrete business. We had 5 ready-mix plants. He owned it with 2 of his brothers. And I started working there as a kid. And when I got old enough to where I could actually earn a real paycheck, I was 16, I started working there in the summers full time. And, my grandpa, he passed away in like a freak accident. But 15 years later, I'm working at the company, and I'm loading up trucks, and I'm working in the gravel yard at the time as a laborer. And I had this contractor come up to me, and he's like, hey, he said, do you look familiar? Are you a Kurtz? And that was my grandpa's last name. And I said, yeah. I said, my grandpa was Bruce. And right away, this guy he lost it. I mean, tears welled up in his eyes. And he just came over and gave me the biggest hug. And here's this big old burly concrete contractor crying, literally crying and holding me and sobbing. And I just I don't know what to do. And he said, I got to tell you a story about your grandpa. He said, when I was starting out, I said, I had nothing. I had no tools. I was barely, me and a couple of guys trying to make something go with this thing, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't have the tools or anything, right? And so he shows up on a job site one day with all these brand new tools. And this is back in the 70s when business was tough. And I remember my grandpa and his brother, they had to basically remortgage their homes just to save the business. So times were tough. And he gave this guy, and he did it to several other contractors, like dozens of them, because I had the same story happen to me several times. I had 3 different guys cry on my shoulder telling me the same story. And that he gave them all these tools. And the contractor said, I can't afford to pay you for these. He said, you don't have to pay me a cent. This is on me. Okay? And he said, well, how do I pay you back? Can I pay you back over time? He said, nope, this is a gift. He said, all I ask is that you consider calling us for your concrete. He didn't even tell him he had to. He just said, hey, would you consider it? And let me just tell you, he understood lifetime value of a customer, because he got that guy, okay, he gave him goodwill. Here's all your tools. And now the guy naturally feels inclined to call for the concrete. And let me tell you, 30 years later, here he is crying on my shoulder, okay? And I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars did this guy generate for the company? Because he was one of the big contractors that we had. Absolutely amazing. That is the power of reciprocity, and that's something you can do. And just as an example, say maybe you own a pet salon, for example. Okay, this is just off the cuff here. You own a pet salon. Well, what can you do for reciprocity? Well, something you can do in a lot of service type businesses is offer a low entry offer that's something to get people in. So maybe you have a new dog or a new cat, but say dog would be a good example. So new clients, your first grooming is on us for $1. Just pay $1 and we'll do a whole grooming. And then you just do your gold medal services. Just show them how good you are. So you got the man with this low entry offer, irresistible offer, and it's goodwill, and you don't ask for anything in exchange except $1, okay? Because you still want to make them open their wallet. You want to make sure that they actually will pay, even if it's just $1, okay? But then you have this low offer, and low price, good offer, and they're going to come back, because how many times are they going to come back to have their dog groomed? And maybe they have another dog. So you see, you're building lifetime value there. And you can do the same thing with so many types of businesses. So anyway, I hope this is something that is useful to you and that makes sense on the law of reciprocity. By the way, I'd pick this book up and read it. It's really awesome. But please give me some comments. Please follow my page if you haven't yet, my YouTube page. Subscribe and share the video if you like it. I'd appreciate that. So you guys have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.